Thank you, Mom. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and just spell your last name for sure?
Rebecca Trayers, Trayers.
Ms. Trayers, what do you do for work?
I am a bartender.
And where is it that you work as well?
Waterfall Bar and Grill
Where is that located?
in Canton, Massachusetts.
How long have you worked there in that capacity?
About 7 years.
And in relation to where in Canton, Massachusetts is Waterfall located?
In the center.
And is there a typical sort of shift or nights that you would work in regard to working at the Waterfall?
At the moment, it's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights.
When you work sort of the nights, what time do you start and what time is it that you typically do?
The shift starts at 5, and we are by volume, so it's once like people start leaving, generally around 10 to 11.
What is the latest that, based on volume, if people are sort of hanging around in the bar, when you last call from the lights on?
12:45 is the latest that we could do last call.
Now, during the shifts that you work, how many people, or like, what does the staff look like in regard to sort of your evening shift?
For upstairs, there's typically like 2 of us with a couple of food runners.
And with regard to entertainment, now, does Waterfall have certain nights of entertainment, sort of live entertainment within?
Fridays and Saturdays.
What kind of entertainment would be there on Friday or Saturday?
Bands.
Is that sort of the same bands over and over, or is it different bands as it goes?
They rotate throughout months.
Were you working at the Waterfall in that capacity around on January 28, 2022? And let me ask you, stepping back for a second, some more general questions. What time is Waterfall typically open?
Open 10 a.m.
So basically 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. or based on volume when you close?
Is that yes, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
With respect to the Waterfall, if you could describe, I know it's located in the Canton Center area, but what kind of building is it? What if anything else is around it?
It's in a condo unit.
So in a condo sort of complex?
Yeah.
And is there a parking lot associated with both the complex and with the Waterfall?
Yes.
As far as entrances and exits, how many of those each are there?
Four.
What is a typical entrance that people would come?
There's typically 2, one in the front and then one in the back by the patio.
So the one by the front is where is that in relation to the parking lot?
It's right outside the parking lot.
And so if I walk into that front door over by the parking lot and come in, can you describe to the jury sort of the layout or like how many tables, what kind of tables that you observe there?
You initially walk into the lounge area. There's about 7 or 8 high tops and then probably 4 or 5 low tops. And right beyond that is the bar area, which leads into the patio. We have 2 back rooms also, but those aren't typically used.
As far as high tops and low tops, starting with the low tops, so how many chairs would typically be around the low tops?
4.
As far as high tops, how many chairs?
6 and 2. We have both.
Is there, in addition to being a bar, is it also a restaurant to serve food? How is that staffed as far as kitchen staff?
In the kitchen, there's typically 2 cooks at a time. It's downstairs.
It's maybe pretty well understood, but just as far as your duties and sort of responsibilities as a bartender, what is it that you do?
I serve drinks and take food orders.
Are there people, do you have regular customers that come in on a fairly regular basis?
Yes.
With respect to the bar, is that sort of full service bar?
What would full service be?
4 questions. Let me read. So you have beer and wine, is that correct?
Yes.
Is there mixed drinks and cocktails and things of that nature as well?
Yes.
When it comes to the glassware that the Waterfall has, where does that come from?
Like, where do we buy it? Is that what you're asking? Typically Restaurant Depot.
Is there a certain type of, let me start that. So if you're getting something that's either draft beer or wine cocktail, does the type of drink that you're ordering have any reflection in the type of glass you would receive?
For the most part, yes.
As far as if you're, let's say, getting a non-alcoholic, how would that typically be served?
In a pint glass. I'm sorry, what was the answer? A pint glass? Thank you.
If you were getting a mixed drink or a cocktail, how would that typically be? What kind of glass would that typically be served?
Like a shorter one.
The shorter sort of cocktail glass, as far as the weight of that, would that be heavier or less heavy than pint glass?
The same.
As far as the sort of thickness of that cocktail glass, would it be thicker at the bottom or thicker at the top or something?
We have different short glasses, but the bottoms are typically heavier in glasses.
On that particular evening of January 28, 2022, do you recall whether or not there was any sort of musical entertainment in the bar that night?
There was a band.
And do you recall the name of the band or what kind of music they played?
No.
But it was a live band, is that correct?
Yep.
When a live band is performing at the Waterfall, where is it in regard to the layout that you would describe that band would typically set?
When you walk into the building, it's left of the high tops. There's like a small alcove. We move tables for them.
Once the band is done, what if anything do you do with that space once the band clears out?
We put the tables back.
With respect to the Waterfall, are you familiar whether or not there's any sort of security or camera recording in there?
There's cameras.
As far as the cameras are concerned, you know where they're situated in relation to the bar?
For the most part, yes.
And fair to say there's at least some interior cameras and some exterior, correct?
Yes.
And with regard to this specific evening of January 28, 2022, have you had occasion to see some of that video from that particular evening?
Yes.
At this time, I would seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit a copy of the surveillance video from the Waterfall.
Okay, is there any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
With the court's permission, I would ask to publish just certain small portions of that at this time.
Oh.
If I could ask for just the first video with the label as far as channel 1. This fair, what's up on the screen, do you recognize generally what that is?
Yes.
And what are we looking at?
Waterfall parking lot.
So this is the parking lot that you're referring to, a front door that leads up to the parking lot for both condo place and football.
Yes.
The video, as far as you're aware, is date and time stamped, and those dates and times are accurate, correct?
The date, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Cameron, you can take that down. And if I could have from channel 3, the first video associated with channel. And if you could just pause it. So Mr. Troy, I think on that desk should be a laser. What you need to do with that is just click the button on top and then pointing at the screen, even when I ask, or anybody asks. Okay. Again, what's up on the screen right now? Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Do you recognize
The
that?
lounge area of Waterfall.
If you could, using the laser pointer, direct the jury's attention first to that area that you were speaking about where a band would normally perform.
That's right here.
And that's where the band was that night?
Yes.
The high tops and low tops, if you could, direct the jury's attention to where those would be located.
These are the 6 people ones, the 2 people, and then low tops.
As far as the bar area, where you would be situated within the establishment when you're working as a bartender, whereabouts, if you could, direct the jury's attention to whereabouts that would be.
All the way back here.
Immediately adjacent or right in front of where the bar area is, what kind of table, what if anything is closest to the bar?
A high top.
Ms. Cameron, if I could ask you to go to the 6th video listed down to channel 3. And if you could pause there for a second. Mr. Red, direct your attention up to the video from up to the screen for the video that's now up there. You recognize this to be the Waterfall as well?
Yes.
The timestamp on it says 1:29:12:01. Is that the AM? Is that correct?
Correct.
It's fair to say that or what any difference do you know about the lighting in this video versus the one from earlier at 10:30 p.m.?
This one's brighter.
Why is it?
We are getting ready to close.
You lights on at that point?
Yes.
As you're closing, what are some of the sort of final things that you're doing as you're sort of...
Cleaning up.
Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to forward to about 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Ms. Reyes, from the date timestamp up there, about what time is this? Does it say on screen?
12:16 a.m.
Ms. Gilman, if you could play this from this point to about 16 minutes and 8 seconds. The individual sort of walking from the top of the screen down towards the bottom towards that front door area, is that where the front door is?
Yes.
Again, if you could just for the jury, just using the light point direct their attention to where that front door is.
Right here.
You recognize who that person was?
Yep.
Was
Yes.
that-
That's me.
You were basically taking the trash, correct? Ms. Gilman, just run through that. From that evening of January 28th, 2022, I'm going to ask just a couple of people's names and then ask if you know them or recognize them as far as sort of people that you've seen in that establishment before. Right? First, with respect to John O'Keefe,
I know of him
was he someone that you had seen in the waterfall before when you were working there?
a couple of times.
Did you know him specifically by name or did you just know him as a familiar face?
First name.
What is it typically that, as a bartender, what is it typically that he would order or get when he was...
I couldn't tell you. Don't know.
I'm really asking as far as beer versus cocktail versus whatever else, if you know.
Beer.
And do you recall seeing him in the waterfall on January 20th?
Yes.
Can you describe what any interaction you had with him or when about that was in the evening?
He came up to order a beer.
At the end of the night, there was one group that was the last group to leave, is that correct?
Yes.
Where were they situated in the bar?
High top. Yeah, in the lounge, closest to the bar.
What, if any, association did you see with Mr. O'Keefe with regard to that group?
I believe he was standing with them.
Could you keep your voice up, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
And ma'am, if you want, just so that microphone, you can move it wherever is most comfortable. Were you familiar with anybody as far as the female party that would accompany Mr. O'Keefe to the waterfall on that or prior occasion?
No.
Had you seen Mr. O'Keefe in there with or without any sort of female companionship?
Previously?
Yes.
No. Not that I'm aware of.
I'm sorry?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not good.
Mhm.
With regard to Christopher Allen, did you know him?
I know of him.
Are you familiar with him as far as someone who came into the waterfall on occasion?
On occasion, yes.
About how often were you meeting?
Once every few months.
Do you recall him on the evening of January 28th?
I actually don't remember.
Anybody else from the Albert family as far as Brian Albert, were you familiar with him?
I know of them.
Do you recall him being there on January 28th?
Yes.
Where was he in relation to the group that with that high top table closest to the bar?
Same area.
Who, if anyone else from that group, did you recognize or did you know on that evening?
The only people I would have recognized would be Brian Higgins and Brian Albert's wife.
Do you know what Brian Albert's wife's name is?
I forget.
And Mr. Hicks, is that someone that you had seen in there on prior occasions?
On occasion, yes.
As far as Mr. Brian Albert, is that someone that you had seen there on prior occasions as well?
Same on occasion.
And had you seen Mr. Higgins and Mr. Brian Albert there together on prior occasions as well?
Yes.
Just one moment. At some point following that evening of January 28th, do you recall strippers from State Police coming to the waterfall, speaking with the owner of the waterfall?
I spoke with them, not at Waterfall.
Are you at least aware that they received from the establishment not only video but some receipts from that evening as well?
Yes.
Have you seen those receipts on some prior date?
One.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes. Yes.
Showing your three-page documents, that's in general terms, do you recognize what those appear to be?
Yes.
Obviously, you work at the waterfall, you've seen receipts that are generated by the establishment before, correct?
Yes.
Do those appear to be receipts from the waterfall?
Yeah.
Is there any sort of date?
I'm sorry, was there a yes or no answer?
Yes.
And with respect to the receipts that I placed before you, the date on them?
Yes.
And what's the date?
1/28/22.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'll seek to introduce. No objection.
Thank you.
Have one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Mr. Reyes, just one last question. With regard to some of the people that I'd asked you about, as far as Mr. O'Keefe, Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, Christopher Albert, any of those parties that you knew them exclusively through your work at the waterfall, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Giannetti?
Good afternoon.
We never met, correct? You have been a bartender at the Waterfall for how many years?
About 7.
That was prior to January of 2022, or you've now been there for 7 years as of today?
As of today.
As of today. Prior to being a bartender at the Waterfall, did you have another bartending job somewhere else?
Yes.
Where was that?
I've worked at a couple places.
In what towns or cities?
A couple in Canton.
The couple in Canton, was that immediately prior to moving to the Waterfall?
Yes.
All right. And we don't have to get into the names of them, but how many years were you a bartender in Canton prior to going to the Waterfall?
Prior to the Waterfall, about 4.
So for about the last 11 years, you've been a bartender at one establishment or another in the town of Canton, correct?
Yes.
Are you from Canton?
I am.
Did you grow up in Canton?
Yes.
You no longer live in Canton.
I recently moved back.
You're back.
Mhm.
I got you. You had, I believe, testified on direct examination that you either know or know of the Albert family.
Correct.
You would agree with me that they are a well-known family in the town of Canton?
Objection.
Overruled.
Can I answer that?
Yes, you can answer. You can answer.
I would say yes.
How many members of the Albert family do you know, either personally or professionally? By professionally, obviously, you're a bartender, and personally means that you know them in some other way.
It would only be professionally, and I'd say 3, or the whole family of Alberts. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
5 of them?
If I asked you the names of the Albert family that you know, would you be able to tell this jury?
Yes.
If you would do that, please.
There's Brian Alberts, Chris Alberts, I can't remember their wives' names
Okay.
at the moment.
You know what their wives
Yeah.
by face?
Yeah, and Brian's daughter, Caitlin.
Specifically, with regard to Caitlin Albert, can you tell us, is there a difference in age between the two of you? Is she closer to your age than the others?
She's closer to my age. She's younger than me.
Did you see Caitlin Albert at the Waterfall on the night of January 28th into the 29th of 2022?
Yes.
You also mentioned that you had seen somebody named Brian Higgins there, correct?
Correct.
He was somebody that you recognized prior to that day, correct?
Correct.
How did you know or come to recognize Brian Higgins?
From Waterfall.
Did you know his name, specifically his last name, on January 28th when you were working that night?
Yes.
When did you learn his name, if you remember?
I don't remember.
At some point in the past, when you've been in the bar, for some reason you knew his name, Brian Higgins.
Or yes.
You had testified, I believe, on direct examination that you had seen Brian Higgins with Brian Albert at the Waterfall on prior occasions.
Correct.
Thank you. Maybe Steve. Okay.
Ms. Giannetti?
Thank you, Ron. Good afternoon again, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
You testified that you knew John O'Keefe as a prior customer in the bar, correct?
Correct.
And that particular night, John appeared to be in a good mood. Would you agree?
Yes.
In fact, John is a pretty good tipper.
I wouldn't really know.
But with regard to that particular night, there was one receipt that was introduced in Exhibit 54. You probably didn't take a close look at it. But if I suggested to you that there was a receipt for a total of $16.58 worth of drinks, and John put a tip down of $10, that'd be a pretty good tip, right? And do you need to see the receipt to confirm that, or?
No.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
And that night, John's demeanor seemed fine. Would you agree?
Yes.
You didn't notice John buying drinks for a woman that night, did you?
No.
And with regard to your scanning the people that were there within that group, one of your duties as a bartender is to make sure that nobody's overserved, right?
Correct.
And while you don't watch every movement all the time, you do look for signs that somebody might be overserved, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to the group that came in, the receipts for which you were shown today, nobody really seemed highly intoxicated to you, correct?
No.
Can I just have a moment?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
No, we don't, John.
All right, Mr. Ayers, thank you very much.